It's time! And now, introducing your host, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Boston, Massachusetts, presenting live,
the Bostonian versus the book. Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the book.
Here he is, Matt Perrault.
Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
For the final week, what is up, Brigade? Welcome into the Bostonian versus the book. My name is Matt Perrault. You guys can follow this show at Boston versus the book, at Opening Line HQ is our new Twitter account for the company. As I have told you guys, my name is Matt Perrault, and we are changing the name of this show after Friday. 5 more days of this show being called the Bostonian versus the book, and we got a lot to get into on the program today. Obviously, Hawkeye fans, I got you guys. We are into it. We're going to talk about the upset over Florida, the number 1 seed Gators, the defending national champs. Goodbye. Hell of a win for Ben McCollum, who the guy is quickly becoming one of the greatest tournament coaches in college basketball history. I mean, this guy, I know there was some question about Fran McCaffery and whether firing Fran was right and what you were going to do when you brought in Ben McCollum, because he hadn't done it at the big time level, but what he did at Drake was pretty damn special. And now he has taken Iowa to the Sweet 16, and his team authored the biggest upset of the tournament so far. Thank goodness, because without that victory, this tournament blows. I will get into it during the opening line. It is a frustration that I have about this tournament that I don't know how it gets fixed. I'm not the guy who can go ahead and tell you how we fix the NCAA tournament. I can just tell you that, in my opinion, it is very broken. And I think the NCAA better be aware of it and better look at it and better be concerned about it, because people that I've talked to, diehard college basketball fans, a lot of them feel the same way I do. Not everybody feels the same way I do, but there are quite a few people that feel the way I do. We will take a look at the path to the national championship. There are 16 teams left. We will jump down the rabbit hole with our friends at Rabbet app. We'll take a look at future markets, future plays, and whose path is easiest to get to Indianapolis for the Final Four. We'll get into that today. Kalshi's in big trouble. I mean, Kalshi got banned for 14 days here in Nevada. They got a temporary restraining order, the state did, against Kalshi. They cannot offer sports gambling here in the state. And then yesterday, a bipartisan bill came out to ban all prediction markets from taking sports contracts. The walls, as they say, are starting to close in. My favorite thing about today is going to be a walk down memory lane and to say goodbye to a gentleman that has meant the world to me professionally. And I've only known him a little bit professionally, but I have gotten to know his family. I have gotten to know his sons. And the news today that Greg McDermott is officially retiring at the end of the year, leaving Creighton basketball after 16 seasons. I can't tell you the level of gratitude I have to the universe for giving me the chance to watch and be present for Coach's last games, because the Jays are playing here in Vegas. And sorry to get a little emotional about it, but it really means a lot to me to be there for the final games for Creighton basketball. For meaningless games, the crown means nothing, okay? But I was texting with one of his sons, Nick, who is a caddy, who is an incredible human being and a guy that I have gotten to know over the last 16 years. I was there when his dad was introduced in Omaha. as the head coach of Creighton basketball. And I was a very different person 16 years ago, and I've had a lot of time today to kind of sit back and reflect on what my life has been like and the path that I went on. But the new head coach for Creighton basketball, this will be the first time where I don't have a solid connection with the head coach of the Blue Jays since 2004. It was 22 years ago was the last time, because I went from Dana Altman, and I had Dana Altman on my radio show every single week, and I had direct communication with Coach and with Bruce Rasmussen, who was the athletic director at the time, and just was able to learn a ton about Creighton basketball. And I knew this day was going to come. They had put it in place that the end was near for Coach McDermott to walk away. But a guy who was at Iowa State, who was at Northern Iowa, who was, in Omaha, has had an unbelievable basketball career, but he had more of an impact on young people. And I learned so much watching him as a teacher, just from afar, and watching how he dealt with different personalities and how he dealt with life. His wife was a cancer survivor from breast cancer. His son went from an unheralded, unknown, in the shadows of Harrison Barnes, who was the number one recruit in the country, going to North Carolina, and everybody was talking about Harrison Barnes. And the kid that wound up being the Naismith Player of the Year was the other kid in Ames High, not Harrison Barnes. It was Doug McDermott, who has gone on to have a 10-plus year NBA career and has been an unbelievable pro. Now, he hasn't dominated the NBA. He's not an all-star, but he's had an unbelievable career and has made a ton of money. I think Doug's earnings are like $35 million now, than what he has made. I mean, that news today, I'm really thankful. Really, really thankful that Coach is going to be here in Omaha, and I get a chance to see him and thank him personally and wish him the best in retirement. That man loves this town. Greg McDermott loves, I cannot tell you, every year for like the last 6 years, the Creighton Blue Jays have played a tournament here, either pre-conference or post-conference. They've played here in Vegas. So it is a perfect ending. And I plan on asking Coach this question. I'm going to try to get him on the show next week. It may be kind of chaotic, but I'm going to try to get him on the show because I would love to have him on to talk about it and just talk about the path. Because, I mean, he'll tell you funny stories. And he ripped me the last time he was on the show. He's been on BvB before, but he ripped me because of the things I would say about him when I was in Omaha. I said a lot of things about his program at Iowa State, and I said a lot of things about his program at Northern Iowa, and the playbook that was a football-like playbook that he had at Northern Iowa. And then he went to Iowa State, and he had to whittle that down. And he didn't win as much. Craig Brackens didn't win as much as they thought they were going to win when they had him. And then he wound up leaving Ames before they fired him because Dana Altman left to go take the Oregon job. And when they hired him, I mean, it was the perfect hire. It was 16 years ago, and he was able to take the Jays to incredible highs, the Elite Eight appearance, and just do things that in a basketball career, Sweet 16 and multiple wins. It was really, really cool. It was an unbelievable basketball coaching career. And it's my favorite thing about today. We're going to into it later, but I am so thankful that I get to see Coach here in Vegas. And I'm so thankful that I was able to be just around. I love being around special people. I love being around leaders and people that can do things that I can't do. I am not a natural born leader. Like that doesn't come naturally to me. People don't gravitate towards me the way that they gravitate towards Dave or towards Coach Mack. And I love being around those people because you see the way they light up the room, but they also see the way they pull things out of people. They pull greatness out of people. Great coaches find that thing inside of the player or the person, and they're able to make them grow and elevate to a level they did not even think they could get to. And that, watching Coach McDermott on his career and what he did, Yeah, I started covering him closely 16 years ago, but I was covering him at Northern Iowa and I was covering him at Iowa State. So like I covered a wide swath of that guy's career. 25 years of coaching that I was watching Greg McDermott coach and watch him play and talking. The first time I interviewed Doug McDermott, he was a sophomore in high school. Okay. So a while ago, I was doing afternoon drive on KXNO in Des Moines, and we heard about this kid who was the coach's son. It was like, hey, Doug, are you going to Iowa State? And it was like, I don't know. And then he got gray shirted. Dana Altman recruited Doug and offered him to gray shirt, meaning he pay his own way for the first year. And that insulted Doug. It insulted Greg. And they decided to go to Northern Iowa. And he was going to be a Panther. Doug was going to be a Northern Iowa Panther. And then Greg got the job and left Ames and went to Omaha and took Doug with him. And the rest is basketball history. Like, it's amazing how the world worked, but I was part of all of that. Like, I was right in the middle of that entire storm as it was swirling. I was right there. And, you know, people have said, why don't you write a book about that? And I'm like, I'm not that great of a storyteller, but I've got a whole, you know, I was there for that entire situation as that all that went down. And so, you know, really a wild situation when that news came down today, just all the memories that flooded back to me. And so we'll have other time to get into it, but we'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. Payada says, as a UNI grad, it was absolutely amazing to see what Mack and Jacobson now have done. Coach Jacobson Ben Jacobson is a gentleman around gentlemen. I mean, that guy is awesome. I love Coach Jake. I really don't think folks out of Iowa realize how hard it is for Drake and UNI to compete. You're absolutely right. People don't understand what those campuses have to work with, especially Northern Iowa. At least Drake has got Des Moines, right? At least you got a little bit of a urban setting that has, you know, professional sports, not high level, but minor league pro sports. They got the Iowa Cubs and it's got the hockey team. And there's things at Wells Fargo, at the Wells Fargo Center, there's concerts and whatnot. So like Drake has that to recruit to, but Northern Iowa, I mean, that is the Cedar Falls. That is a really hard place to recruit to. That is a really, really hard place in the wintertime. Like when you're having a recruiting visit to walk into that barn, to that gym in that weather, to go to school in that part of the country, not easy to do. No, not easy to recruit to, not easy to win. And what Coach Jacobson has done is truly remarkable. So we'll get into the opening line about the tournament here in just 1 second. First, an update on the BvB ATS Survivor Contest. This was, I can't tell you how much fun I have had watching this over the last 4 days. This has been super cool to see who is picking whom, what team is the most popular team, and we're down to five entries. To give you an idea, and you guys have to tell me whether or not you like this format because it's new, but this is how the contest worked. Day one, we had about 78 entries. We wound up with 8 people that rebought because you could do that after you got knocked out. If in the first day, if you got knocked out, you could rebuy back in. So we had 8 people do that. But we had 26 people knocked out on the first day. On the second day, there were 26 people also eliminated. So we had 33% of the field knocked out on day one. We had 50% of the field knocked out in day two. We then had 16% of the field, which was 61% knocked out on day three. And then we had 50% of the field knocked out yesterday on day number 4. And that leaves us with 5 entries left for nearly $2,000. $25 entry could yield you up to $2,000. I think this was super fun because now here are the 5 entries that are left. Now you can't use the same team twice, right? So we're into the Sweet 16. They've all used at least a 2 seed on there. And somebody, look at DPD4AU used Iowa yesterday. Nice job there, grabbing a hold of that. Remember, you don't get extra credit for picking an outright winner. It's just take the team to cover. So we have Arizona, though. B-Rad Rucker took Arizona yesterday, getting that by the hook. Congratulations. It was 11.5. Thing fell 12. I was on that bet. We sweated it out. Same thing with Southside J on that. So we have 5 entries left here. I don't know if we get past Thursday or Friday. Do we get out of the Sweet 16? That's going to be my question. Do we get out of the Sweet 16? I don't know. We'll see. I think it was fun. I think it was a super fun event. I really did enjoy this a lot. I think it's going to be a fun thing to watch in the future. I want to find a way of doing it for the NBA, for the NBA playoffs. I want to try to do that. I'm going to see if the folks at Splash Sports will do that, because I think it could be pretty cool to do an ATS survivor pool in terms of the NBA playoffs, because we have so many more games to pick from. So it could last longer, but it's hard to do that. So that might be the next time we bring this back. But for a first time doing this with a survivor, ATS survivor pool, thumbs up. Thumbs up. I thought it was super fun. I thought it was cool. Big fan of it. We're going to do it again. Opening line. Let's talk about this tournament. Let's talk about what happened. Our friends at Huel, they are back as the presenting sponsor of the opening line. Our friends at Huel, they are back, and, well, they have this offer. The code has changed to just BvB on that. So to correct that code, it's not BvB20. It's just BvB for them to get 20% off their starter kit, their high-protein starter kit from Huel. If you guys haven't used or tried Huel yet, there's been a lot of developments with Huel since we last had them on. Also, about the Target situation, we talked about Target and what Target is meant from them. They're now in Costco. So they're not only just in select Targets around the country, they are also in your local Costco potentially. So every Costco is a little different. But I know in Arizona, I know that they're now in Costco in Arizona. And if you're on the West Coast, you could find probably Huel. This is a protein. Everyone wants to say smoothie. It's more of a meal replacement. And it's something that's been in my cycle, in my rotation for breakfast for months now. Even when they're not sponsoring the show, I'm still using it all the time because, 1, it tastes good. 2, it's really convenient. I have the pre-made shakes ready to drink in my fridge at all times, because that can be up to 400 calories on the fly. And if you're really busy like I am, it's a great way of getting 27 essential vitamins and minerals from something that's gluten-free, vegan, and it tastes good. Check it out. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't always endorse products. This is not an endorsement. They're a sponsor of the show, but I do use it. I do drink it. And the shakes are awesome because you can go ahead and make it any way you want, with milk or with water. You can put vegetables. You can put all sorts of greens and whatever else you want to put in there to make it as healthy as possible. I go the other route. I put tons of fruit, bananas, strawberries, blueberries, and go ahead and make a shake that can be up to 250, 300 calories. And if you go full bore, it's 400 calories, 40 grams of protein. I'm somebody that likes, obviously, to watch my weight. I like to eat a lot of protein, lean up for the upcoming summertime. Check it out, Huel.com. Use the code BvB to get 20% off. Let's start talking about this tournament, okay? So first and foremost, I, on social media, wrote the following. This tournament used to be the best thing that we did on the sports calendar, and we totally killed it. It's our own fault. This tournament is straight trash now. It's boring games. I hope the ratings completely tank. We did this to ourselves. That did not sit well with people. People got very angry about that. They were very mad. Matt, I love this tournament. You are dead wrong. That's fine. And you can love this tournament. But I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think that I'm wrong by calling out this tournament and saying this thing is not what we thought it was going to be. The tournament is boring when every favorite wins and covers. I will stand behind that comment, and this tournament does this year suck. The tournament went to 64 teams in 1985. Only 7 times have the 13, 14, and 15 seeds all gone winless in the first round. Happened this year again. We are not seeing Cinderellas. It is not happening in back-to-back years. The little seeds, the little guy, they are not winning in this tournament. Why? Well, look, the easy answer is NIL, right? That's the quick answer. But it's more than that. We went 22 straight where the favorite won and covered until Texas beat Gonzaga. 22 straight games. That's incredible. 22 straight. Win, cover, win, cover, win, cover. The Sunday games were good. I'm going to give you that. That the Sunday games were good. The Thursday, Friday, Saturday games were boring. Sure, there was a couple of decent games in there, and you can bring up for every Nebraska and Vanderbilt game that you want to bring up, I'm going to give you a Florida against LIU game. Okay. And I'm not saying the games are supposed to be awesome every time. And I'm not saying a 1 seed should be threatened by a 16 seed. I'll give you all that. But the games are supposed to be competitive. They're supposed to be fun. You're giving me 16 games on Thursday, 16 games on Friday, 8 games on Saturday, and 8 games on Sunday. If I have that many games to watch, okay, you're giving me almost 50 games to watch. And you're telling me I have to settle for 2, 3, or 4 being good? And that is enough? I'm supposed to say thank you for that? I'm supposed to be excited that, like, oh my gosh, that's tremendous. You gave me 4 games out of 50 to pay attention to and watch. I got called a casual over the weekend by people who were going through. And I just think it's funny. Like, maybe if you're new, you don't know, like, my history, okay? But like, I've covered this tournament. Look how grainy those photos are. That's how long it's been. That's how long I've been covering college basketball. Back when our cameras looked like that. Those are NCAA tournament games that I was covering. You want to go even further? How about that? That's Ali Farouk-Manesh after he hit the shot to knock out Oklahoma City. Like, that's history. That's him in the game. That's his practice shot before they played the game. When I was interviewing Ali Farouk-Manesh, who's now the head coach of Colorado State, who's been on this program numerous times. Look at the shorts. I'm a casual. Look at the shorts. I've been around this thing for a bit. This is not my first rodeo. This thing right here, that's a Boston Red Sox thing, logo. The next one over right here, you can't really see it. That's a Creighton basketball logo. It was at my wedding. Like, this is just, I've been around this thing for a minute or two. I get college basketball. It's what I love. I have a deep love of college basketball, but I'm pissed off. Okay. I'm not happy about this. I think we've killed it. I think we have gone down a path that is not fixable, that we're not going to be able to recover for this because we're not going to have the little guy anymore. It's annoying. I don't find it fun to sit there and watch favorite win, favorite cover, favorite win, favorite cover. You could say, Matt, just bet favorites in your. This is not a betting thing. Okay. This is where I do get a little bit frustrated with my history now, because I am somebody that is more associated with sports betting than I am about anything else. And I'm okay with that. I've built that way. That's who I am now. But the old version of me gets frustrated by that, because that means, well, as long as you're winning money, Matt, or as long as you're just betting favorites, you're very happy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the betting angle, because the betting angle is pretty bad. The betting angle is pretty boring. In the round of 64 and 32, closing favorites finished 39-9 straight up. 29-19 against the number. The 39-9 straight up mark is the fewest dog upset since 2018 and tied for the second fewest over the last 20 years. The 20-19 ATS mark for favorites is best since 2008. It's only the second time in NCAA tournament history where the Sweet 16 is made up entirely of teams from major conferences. The only other time it happened was last year. This has nothing to do with betting. My anger about the tournament has got nothing to do with betting. It's got everything to do with the tournament. And this tournament has sucked so far. On the macro, if your team has won, awesome. Husker fan, you guys are doing cartwheels in the streets. Fred Hoiberg has you in the Sweet 16 for the first time ever. We've got news stations in Omaha going around and asking people, what would you sacrifice for a Nebraska national championship in college basketball? Which is like, okay, guys, hold on a second. We're getting way too far ahead of ourselves. But that's the level of that's happening right now in Lincoln and Omaha with Husker fans. Iowa just beat the defending national champs, and Ben McCollum has shown to be an unreal head coach when it comes to tournaments. The guy did it at the lower levels. He did it at Drake, and now he's doing it at Iowa. I mean, his rise has been meteoric. It's been amazing. Iowa State played without their best player in Justin Jefferson, and they went and won by double digits. They dominated Kentucky in the round of 32. And TJ Otzelberger has got an incredible team, and they're going to be a really big problem as to what they're going to do going through the rest of the tournament. I mean, those three schools aren't going anywhere. So I get it. If you're a Cyclone fan, if you're a Hawkeye fan, or you're a Husker fan, this tournament has been unbelievable for you. For you. But look at it from a macro perspective. The Big 12 is 7-3 so far in this tournament. Their average margin of victory is 22.9 points. 22.9. The SEC is now 13-6 in this tournament, and their average margin of victory is 13.8 points. 22, 13. The Big 10 is 13-3 in the dance, and they have 6 of the 16 teams left are out of the Big 10. Okay, almost half of the remaining field are Big 10 teams. Like, this is what they wanted, okay? This is what Jay Billis wanted. This is what so many of your power-hungry teams have wanted. They wanted 0 mid-majors left. They don't like the little guy. They think the little guy is a pain in the ass. That it's just a problem. So when they get knocked out, so instead we have to consider Texas and Iowa Cinderellas. Excuse me? The highest paid employee in the state of Iowa coaches football at that school. This is a Cinderella? What are you talking about? Texas? Texas has a GDP that's bigger than some small countries. Like, like what they spend on their athletic budget is bigger than a GDP of some small nation. And we're supposed to call Texas a Cinderella? This is what we're supposed to be excited about? There's always a story. There's always something where you learn about a kid who you knew nothing about him, about his mom or his dad, his grandfather, where he lived, where he came from. Like that moment, that's what made this thing. Basketball is what drove us to the TV set, but the stories is what kept us there. The stories is what made all of us go, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know about No Name State in upstate nowhere and what they just were able to accomplish. That's why this thing is so cool. It's not about the major market. It's not about the big guy. It's not about the big money. It's an equalizer. It's a basketball with a 10-foot rim and a 3-point shot that can knock down the biggest of the best. And that toppling of Goliath is what made this tournament special. If we were so excited about watching brand name after brand name play against each other, well, then why aren't the conference tournaments bigger than the NCAA tournament? We want this national championship. We want this to be an up and down, topsy-turvy, unpredictable ride. And we want a team that we didn't see coming. Make a run. Make a shot. Do something special. And I'll give it to you. Iowa's 3-point shot, that was amazing. What an unbelievable moment. Hitting a 3. 2 ties the game. 3 wins the game. It's that Ali Farouk-Manesh, oh my God moment, right? Drop back, kid steps behind the arc, buries the 3. Okay, looks up. His dad died. He looks up and points to the sky to his dad after every made 3-point shot. That's amazing. And he did that after that 3-point shot. Unreal. Florida couldn't get a shot off at the end. Awful play call. I don't know what was going on with Todd Golden, but that was an awful play call to have that be done for, your season. But that's an unbelievable win. I think it's awesome, but I'm not going to be satisfied with the Iowa Hawkeyes as being a Cinderella. I'm not going to be satisfied with the Texas Longhorns being a Cinderella. These programs have got extremely deep pockets. And so the margin is not that large, okay, between these teams. Sure, Arizona's unbelievable. Duke is very special. Houston's ridiculous. Okay, I'll give you all of that. But they're not going to lose anymore to these small schools. Is Cinderella dead? Yes. Yes, Cinderella's dead. But that is not... Power conference teams and brand names is not what made the NCAA tournament special. It is not what made us go, wow. How about that? Did you see that? The water cooler conversation, the Vanderbilt shot against Nebraska. Yep, people are going to talk about it. That was unbelievable. The ball was halfway down and came back out. Okay, unbelievable. Fred Hoiberg is a gentleman, is a class act. I don't like Nebraska basketball. Okay, I just don't. But I really like Fred, and he's an unbelievable. It's still awkward for me. I think it's awkward for a lot of Iowa State fans because you want to cheer for Nebraska. You want to cheer for Fred because Fred's the mayor of Ames and what he did at Iowa State. Like, he's just a special guy. He's a special human being. He has a special family. His son's on the team for the Huskers. It's a great story. It is Lincoln. It is Nebraska. It is, I feel dirty too. I'll give it to you. I don't like it, but I like Fred and I like what they've accomplished, right? I couldn't be happier for TJ Otzelberger. I could not be happy for his family, for Allison, who was an unbelievable Cyclone basketball player, for his daughters, for his kids. My daughter and TJ's kids played together when he coached here at UNLV. Like, I have such a deep respect for them. I've already gone on my McDermott rant. I don't need to do that again as to what that has meant. This tournament means a lot to me, not just because I like watching it, because I know the people who are involved. I have relationships with these people. I want this thing to be awesome. I want it to grow and get better every year. But if I'm some 22-year-old kid who just started watching college basketball 2 years ago, I have no idea. I have no barometer for what this thing is supposed to look like. This is not what this thing's supposed to look like. That's the problem. And from a betting perspective, I totally understand why people are like, Matt, shut up and bet favorites and be done with it. That's fine. I don't like the rinse and repeat stuff. I just don't like it. I don't like the same old, same old. I don't think that's fun. I don't think people enjoy that. They want to see the unknown. Sports, the reason why we all watch sports is because we don't know what is going to happen. If we're turning on the TV set and we're going to go by the seeds every single time, being like, okay, that team is favored by 8 points, they're going to win and cover, because every team is winning by 8 points. Every team is winning and covering consistently. Double-digit favorites. We're 46-2 straight up in the round of 32 since 2005 entering yesterday. Iowa wins over Florida. 2002, Duke, the last defending champ to lose outright as a double-digit favorite. So it's rare that they lose. And this makes it an unbelievable win for Iowa. Makes it a historic win for Iowa. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody, from Nebraska, from St. John's with their win at the buzzer over Kansas, for Iowa. Okay. I'm not trying to take anything away from the programs and the teams that had special moments, because there have been special moments in this tournament. It's just too few and far between. We had to wait till Sunday to really get into it, to have a buzzer beater, to have a, oh my God moment 4 days in. That's not what normally happens in this thing. Normally it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's something else that happens. There's some upset. There's some play. There's some shot. Didn't happen until Sunday. So everyone's telling me that this is going to lead to an epic Sweet 16. Okay. It's going to be an unbelievable Sweet 16. Okay. If you guys say so, I hope you're right. The numbers don't really tell me that. Look at these numbers. 8.5, 7.5, 6.5, 10.5. Okay, fine. There's a couple of small ones. Nebraska, Iowa, 1.5 for UConn and Michigan State, which is arguably the best game of the Sweet 16. But we still have some pretty lopsided numbers. 7.5, 10.5 for a 1v4 has a 10.5. A 1v4 has an 8.5. I mean, even amongst the power teams, the books are saying, nah, these lower seeded teams have no shot. They got no shot. That sucks. I'm sorry. That just is not fun. That's not what I grew up watching. That's not what brought me to love college basketball and love the NCAA tournament, because I still love the NCAA tournament. It's the best thing we do still. And I hope that we find a way. I hope there's money somewhere. I hope that we salary cap this. I hope we create a budget. I don't believe in unlimited spending. I don't think that that's appropriate. I don't think teams should be able to spend $30, $40 million on a roster. I don't think that's appropriate. This is not professional sports. You want to have the kid be involved. You want to give him NIL rights, all those things I'm good with. But the straight up paying of play, which is happening right now, it has separated it far too much. Utah State went from $800,000 to $2.4 million in 1 year. That's a pretty damn big jump. That's tripling your budget in 1 year. And they went to the round of 32. It paid off by tripling their budget in 1 year. If they do that again, goes from 2.4 up to $7 million. Now we're talking about some real money here at a Utah State in the Mountain West Conference. Huh? I don't like it. I don't like it. We need to have some level of situation there. Need to have some situation going on. GB football. I grew up watching K-State beat Oregon State. St. Joe's beat number 1 DePaul. Put the tourney on its ear. Yeah, 100%. Again, it's about equality. And right now we have a massive inequality in college sports, but college basketball in a really, really big, big way. Massive inequality in college basketball. Let's talk about what happened over the weekend. Okay, let's talk about Bill Self here, because Bill Self got knocked out by St. John's. And after the game, he was asked about his future at KU. And he said, quote, "I'll get back and get with family and visit and see what's going on." Whoa. Okay. Bill Self has had health issues for the last couple of years. And if the KU job opens up, that's a massive deal in college sports. If Kansas basketball is going to be open, it didn't sound like he was going to 100% be back in Lawrence next year. What a performance by St. John's and Rick Pitino. And on my bracket, I had St. John's advancing. I bet KU plus 3.5. I'm still going to bet dogs in this tournament, even though I probably should not. That was one of the dog plays that cashed, was KU plus 3.5. I thought it was really a rare situation to ever get points in a tournament game, round of 32, involving KU and Bill Self. They were down 14 points in the second half, and I thought, well, that was a dumb bet. And then they were able to come back, and St. John's wins on a last-second layup. And Rick Pitino now is into the Sweet 16 again, and they'll take on Duke in D.C. We talked to JY, Coach Young, Coach JY, about that situation. He and I both agreed that we thought St. John's would play Duke. That game's in D.C. That's going to be an absolute barn burner. Johnny fans are going to completely get out of New York and get down to D.C., but Duke fans are already there, and that's going to be an awesome atmosphere in college basketball for a tournament game. Tough matchup, fun game, really, really fun game. But that's something to watch. Is Coach Self going to be back at KU next year? If I had to guess right now, I would say no. I did on my bracket-ish, even though my bracket is busted, I did take St. John's over Duke. I agree. St. John's over Duke. But, I don't know. That's going to be wild to watch. We'll talk more college basketball in the Sweet 16 coming up when we jump down the rabbit hole. But I want to do a couple quick football conversations because there are two stories to talk about for a football perspective. And the Seahawks are spending money like crazy. They didn't keep Kenneth Walker, but they are now going to give JSN the biggest contract ever. He is the highest paid receiver in NFL history now with a 4-year, $168 million contract. Not saying it's wrong to do that, but whoa, that's a big deal for JSN and the Seahawks. You win the championship, okay, you got to keep your players, but paying that much money for a wideout, I mean, it helps that you have Sam Darnold and the contract is not gigantic yet for Sam Darnold. If he keeps playing at this level, the contract will be. It will be, but right now it's not. So you can go ahead and pay your guys this much money and give them gigantic contracts and keep them in Seattle for the foreseeable future to play with the Seahawks. Did you guys watch the flag football game between Team USA and the NFL players at all? I actually watched this over the weekend. Team USA didn't just beat the NFL players. They embarrassed the NFL players to the point where it looked like they had never stepped onto a football field before. Now, I know flag football is not real tackle football, but 106 to 44? 106 to 44? Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. You guys got beat by dudes that we've never heard of before. 106 to 44. We got a problem here, boys. Like this is not what we wanted to see here. I guess it means our flag football team is really good, and our NFL football team, those guys need to keep playing tackle football because the rules of flag, they don't understand. They didn't. I mean, Brady admitted after the game, they had one running play installed for his team. One. And you can run the ball. There's different rules about when you can rush and how you can rush and the way you tackle, which is the flag. And there's technique to it. You got to be prepared. Our guys didn't look prepared. Our guys looked lost. I mean, completely and totally lost. Yeah, Tom Brady throwing ropes, Ross, is nothing new. We know that. We know that. But that was amazing. that was absolutely amazing to watch Team USA players I've never heard of before take down Hall of Fame NFL players and embarrass them on national TV. Like, guys, this wasn't just like a scrimmage. There were millions of people watching this. There were a lot of people who were watching that. Oh boy. Yeah. Josie Meyer says people have been sleeping on the flag football players. NFL players don't need to be in the Olympics. After watching that game, you're absolutely right. Because our NFL players play real football. That's not real football. That's a whole different brand. That's like ultimate frisbee, right? It's not golf. It's a whole different world. If you're a golfer, it doesn't mean you're going to be good at ultimate frisbee. Same thing when it comes to playing NFL football. Just because you're an NFL football player does not mean you're going to be good at flag football. Clearly, because that was bad. That was bad. Yes, that graphic said 100K. They get 100,000 for playing in that. They were playing for real. That wasn't a joke to them. That was real. 100,000 for winning the Fanatics Flag Football Classic. Team USA players will each receive 100,000, which is nothing for Tom Brady, which is nothing for Joe Burrow, which is nothing for Jalen Hurts or Logan Paul or whoever else was playing that damn thing. What's 100K to them? They don't care. That's an afternoon. But those guys playing in the Flag Football Championship, it's a good payday for them playing on national TV. And then they go out there and smoke. CG says, I still want Brady on my team. Yeah, dude, that throw he had to the back of the end zone to Stephon Diggs. Oh my God. Look, Brady has said it and now we know it, right? Brady said it on a podcast. He said, give me a month and I can prepare and I can play an NFL football game. Yeah, I would agree. Brady's arm, Brady's accuracy, what he looked like running around. I agree. I believe him. Now he can't play the whole season, but am I going to be surprised if some team has a catastrophic injury to their quarterback next year and Tom Brady steps into play? Nope. Philip Damn Rivers played in an NFL game last year for the Colts. Tom Brady playing in the NFL next year, I do not put him past him. Not even a little bit. Not even for a question do I put that past Tom Brady to play next year in the NFL. And people are going to go, oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm serious. I really do believe that Tom Brady has the potential to play NFL football next year. After going through this, yep. Yep. I think I could see Tom Brady playing next year. Not a whole season, but 2 or 3 games, kind of like what Rivers did. 100% I think it's possible. But maybe we need to learn the rules a little bit before we play. Like maybe practice a bit more so you don't get embarrassed on national TV, because that was embarrassing for the NFL football players as to what those guys did. That was an impressive performance by Team USA. Bravo. Those guys took it seriously and beat the living daylights out of the NFL players playing flag football. Some of them started tackling. They were so frustrated by the Team USA guys, they started tackling them, getting flags for unnecessary roughness. Maybe do it again, but maybe do it with different players. I don't know, but congrats to Team USA. It's a hell of a victory. Let's talk about the Sweet 16 and who has the easiest path to Indy. All right, time to jump down the rabbit hole by being presented by our friends at Rabbet. If you guys are in a group chat and you guys are all fighting, you're going back and forth, you're yelling at each other, well, here's a chance to take the group chat, take that smack talk and turn it into a real opportunity to put your money where your mouth is. You guys set the odds. You guys set the line. You guys set the stakes here with Rabbet. It is a true peer-to-peer sports picking platform. You can challenge your friends, not the house. There's no algorithm. There's no back office that you're fighting with here. It's just you versus your friend creating a customized sports pick. You guys can share it around. If you want to check it out, they're giving you 5 free Rabbet cash when you sign up. Use the code Rabbet5. You guys can go and check out what it's like to set a line and make a play on Rabbet. Download it in the Google Play or the Apple Store, the App Store today. Let's talk path to the national championship and the Final Four, because it is interesting. Which team is going to have the easiest path? Now, our friends at BetCris, if you want to take a look at the odds at BetCris and what they have set here for it, Michigan now has the easiest, shortest odds to win the national championship. Almost 3-1, little over 3-1 for Arizona. Duke comes in at plus 430. If you want to know why BetCris is at that, it's because they've got a big red number against Michigan. That's a really bad result for BetCris. So they don't want to take any more Michigan money. They want some other money. They don't want Michigan money. Duke at 430. Houston comes in at 6-1. Purdue 12.5-1. Illinois 15-1. Iowa State 17.5-1, and Michigan State comes in at 25-1 to win the national championship. From a path perspective, I don't know how you guys are not jumping on Houston. Look, with all due respect to Nebraska and Iowa, the football school is playing in a basketball game in the Sweet 16, and one of those teams will get to the Elite 8, which is amazing. If I had to bet it right now, I probably would turn around and I probably would take the points with Iowa. Given Ben McCollum's history and Nebraska being a make or miss team, I've seen it before. You've never been there before. You are a jump shooting team. The atmosphere at those Nebraska games were unbelievable. Husker fans should simply take a bow. You guys took over Oklahoma City. You made that into a home game. That was an unreal atmosphere for an NCAA tournament game. All the games involving the Huskers. That was bravo. Now, you're going to Houston. Okay. Yeah, you can drive it. It's not hard to get down there from both Lincoln and Des Moines / Iowa City. You can get down there. Okay. It's not impossible. Omaha too. It's a day's drive to get to Houston. Here's the problem. Houston is playing in your bracket and Houston is playing in your pod. You're going to, regardless of who wins, okay, you're going to be outnumbered most likely. It's going to be a home game. Houston fans have already bought these tickets. Houston fans anticipated their team winning their first 2 games and having essentially a home game, because that's what Houston's going to have. They're going to have a home game. Houston to reach the Final Four at most sports books last night to win their bracket was down to plus 110. You could still get plus money on Houston last night. That was an all-in type bet for me. I don't bet like that very often, but I am really heavily playing Houston to come out of that bracket. It's just too much to ask. Okay. It's going to the second weekend is tough. Okay. It's really, really tough. So if we're talking about path as to who I think has the easiest path to get to Indy, it's Houston. Okay. Houston's going to beat Illinois. And I don't mean to completely disrespect Illinois and say that they can't beat Houston, because Illinois could beat Houston. They're 2.5-point favorites. Houston is over Illinois. It's not like it's a foregone 8-point line, but that defense, Look, Brad Underwood is the head coach of Illinois. Brad Underwood coached at Stephen F. Austin, which is about an hour outside of Houston. He's got to have friends and family and people in town. Like this is big here for Brad Underwood to take Illinois and to be sent down to the Sweet 16 to play Houston in Houston. But he's got history in that market. I've told you guys the story. I was working in Houston, and I was talking with Stephen F. Austin about getting their games aired in Houston for the station I was working for. So I've got ties to this, but at the Toyota Center, this is Cougar Nation now. This is what they were waiting on. So regardless of Iowa or Nebraska, whoever comes out of there, I do think Houston beats Illinois. And that's the only question about that bet is, can Houston beat Illinois? I think that they can. I think their defense is that elite. I think they get past Illinois, and then I think they'll take care of it pretty easily. Again, not trying to hate on Houston, hate on Iowa or Nebraska, but it's a road game. Houston was 15-1 this year at home. I mean, this is a home game. In the tournament, it's a home game. So I think path-wise, I think it's Houston's path to Indy is the easiest. Now, who they play in the Final Four is interesting, right? Because the top, Duke, Michigan State, St. John's, and in UConn, I mean, the East is still loaded, okay? 4 teams left. St. John's, their coaches won a national championship. UConn, their coaches won a national championship. John Shire has not at Duke, but he's played for one. As a player, he has. And now you have Michigan State and Tom Izzo. You have 3 national championship winning coaches and a really good coach in John Shire, who has the best roster and the best players. So the East, I have no idea who comes out of that. That is a complete coin flip to me. I think Michigan State's got a real good chance of beating UConn. And I think St. John's has a really good chance of beating Duke. So in the Elite 8, if it's St. John's versus Michigan State and Tom Izzo, oh my. Patino Izzo for a chance to go to the Final Four, that's unbelievable. UConn Duke matching up a 1 versus 2, unbelievable, right? That's awesome. So if you go there, and you turn around and go, okay, so here's how this is all going to play out. Now, the other side with Arizona now going up against Arkansas in San Jose, the second easiest path is Arizona, okay? Because while I like John Calipari and I like the roster for Arkansas, Arizona, when they get to that, I mean, no. I'm just no. They may not cover, but I cannot see Arizona losing to Arkansas with how deep they are, with how talented they are. They got their scare, right? Utah State put a little scare in them and they still covered, okay? They still won the game by 12 points and covered the 11.5-point number. They'll beat Arkansas, and then they'll play the winner of Purdue and Texas. And I like Purdue, but I don't like Purdue against Arizona. I don't like it athlete to athlete. I don't like pace of play. I don't like the defense. Sure, 3-point shot is a great equalizer for Purdue. They can rebound, but so can Arizona. They've got size. They've got skill. I like Arizona a lot to get to the Final Four to win that bracket, and I think they're in. So I think in terms of, I made the bet that the Final Four, the adding up of the 4 seeds, will be under 8.5. I think Houston gets there. I think Arizona gets there. There's a shot that Michigan State gets there as a 3 seed, but it could be UConn or Duke, 2 or a 1. I don't think St. John's gets there to the Final Four. They may beat Duke, but I don't think St. John's gets all the way to Indy. And then what happens with the Midwest bracket? I mean, it feels like Michigan and Iowa State are going to wind up playing. Michigan's a big favorite against Alabama, which I'm somewhat surprised at that number. It feels heavy on this. It feels like, you look at this and you're like, wow, that number just seems heavy. 10.5. Alabama's catching 10.5 against Michigan. It's rebounding, right? It's the size of Michigan and how big they are. That's tough for a smaller, quicker guard latent team in Alabama. And then after that, it's Tennessee and Iowa State. Well, Iowa State's just a better version of Tennessee. So I like Iowa State to win that game. And then it's 1v2, and it's Michigan up against Iowa State, which could be awesome. I mean, I think as long as Jefferson's back playing well, that's a chance to go to the Final Four. I have bet Iowa State to get to the Final Four. I'm going to hedge off that if that happens, but I've got a ticket on Iowa State to win that bracket. And it was pretty good odds. 3.5 to 1, I think I got on Iowa State to win the bracket. So like up against Michigan, you bet the other side, you guarantee profit. So I think if I'm picking as to of the number one seeds up to who gets out, I think Houston has the easiest path. I think Arizona has the second easiest path. I think Michigan and then Duke. Duke is the number one overall seed, and yet they have the most difficult path. They have the most difficult path to get there. This is going to be fun. Like I'll give you guys this in terms of like watching these games. I hope you're right. I hope the Sweet 16 games turn out to be absolutely barn-burning epic. And I hope Thursday and Friday we have 4 games on each day, and we are just slack-jawed and amazed at how good these games are and how incredible these games wind up being. And then I'll go, okay, so we waited. We got to slog through the first weekend to get to the second weekend, and it was worth it. But if these games are blowouts, if Houston and Michigan and Arizona all win by double digits, and then we have Duke and St. John's as like one decent game of the 8. We have one good game, and that's it. I'm going to be even more pissed off next Monday about all of this and be even more angry about all of this. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not positive I'm going to be wrong. News of the industry, and it's not good news for our friends at Kalshi. So we got off the air on Friday, and almost immediately the news broke that a temporary restraining order had been levied against Kalshi and that they were banned from operating in the state of Nevada for 14 days. Now, it's temporary. That could be extended to being permanent, but the Nevada Gaming Control Board saying prediction markets that facilitate unlicensed gambling are illegal in Nevada, and we have a duty to protect the public. The Nevada Gaming Control Board continues saying Kalshi has repeatedly stated that its operations are legal in 50 states, which is clearly not true. Prediction markets, to the extent they facilitate unlicensed gambling, are illegal in Nevada, and we have to protect the public. Okay, so this is Nevada's stance very clearly that PMs are illegal. You cannot use prediction markets in our state. And if you do it, we're going to come after you. So it's a 14-day temporary restraining order. They cannot operate. If you try to use Kalshi in Nevada, it'll give you a little warning that says, hey, you cannot operate this app in the state of Nevada. Does that get copied in other states? The thought would be yes, right? That would happen. But I don't think that's the biggest worry for Kalshi. That's not their biggest concern right now. I think their biggest concern is what came out today, is that there is a bipartisan bill that wants to ban prediction markets from gambling, from taking bets on sports. That contracts that have been written by Kalshi on sports need to be permanently banned federally, not locally, permanently. That is amazing. There was a study that came out last week that we talked about how people are now starting to see prediction markets as gambling. Well, another one came out last week that said that 21% of Americans are familiar with prediction markets. Only 3% of those polled use them, but 91% said that they are financially risky. And the majority of them, 52%, said that sports betting is bad, compared to 38% who said prediction markets are bad. So people are starting to figure this out a little bit. There's more knowledge as to what's going on here in terms of where sports gambling is and where prediction markets are going. So this bill, Adam Schiff and John Curtis introduced today. John Curtis from Utah, okay? Saying, quote, too many young people in Utah are getting exposed to addictive sports betting and casino-style gaming contracts that belong under state control, not our federal regulators, meaning the CFTC. Sports continue to make up the majority of the trades at Kalshi. Around 90% of volume during the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament were sports contracts bet at Kalshi. And yet Mike Seelig is out here, singing through the graveyard here that there's nothing going on. There's nothing to see here. This is all just, a bunch of nothing. Don't got to worry about it. The Wall Street Journal is reporting on this, that this is a bipartisan, both sides of the aisle getting involved to say we need to get rid of sports prediction markets with sports on platforms. You can still have prediction markets, just they want to take sports out of it. Adam Schiff said, quote, the CFTC is greenlighting these markets and even promoting their growth. That's true. It's time for Congress to step in and eliminate this backdoor in which violates state consumer protections, intrudes upon tribal sovereignty, and offers no public revenue. That is true. They don't pay state taxes. And that's part of the biggest issue when people start learning about all the things happening with Kalshi and whatnot. They start realizing, and they're like, oh, interesting. They don't pay taxes the same way that sports books do. They're not regulated. That Illinois is New York raising their taxes, right? All these states raising their taxes. Nope. Kalshi pays none of it. Zero. Nothing. They don't pay a licensing fee. They don't pay a anything of a setup fee. Nothing. They just operate the state. They take money out of the state. They put nothing back in. You knew this was going to happen. Like, you knew this was going to be a really big problem. That people were going to step in and say, no, this can't happen. So the walls are closing in, and the federal government's finally realizing that they have some power here as to what they want to go and attempt to do. Where does this go? How quickly does this bill get voted on? I don't know. I'm not on Capitol Hill enough to know how quickly this thing could actually be onto the floor to be debated. I just know that if Nevada has won a pretty big court ruling, that Mass and other states are looking at this and going, we want to copy this, and we're coming after you because we don't believe that you're legal in what you're doing. And if Kalshi simply said, we're not taking sports contracts anymore, this all goes away tomorrow. But there's no way they can do that because Kalshi goes away tomorrow if they don't take sports contracts. That's their catch-22. That's their problem. So, they can say, we take bets on soybeans and weather and everything and elections and whatnot. But 90% of what they take in are sports, because people who are in states where they can't bet on sports because it's not legal in their state, they're using Kalshi, Utah, California, Texas. That's primarily, and that's where the advertising has been, that, hey, you can bet on sports legally here with us. Come on. And people are like, this looks like a duck. It quacks like a duck, but you're telling me it's a blue jay? Okay. Sure. Just a matter of time. As I've talked about with a lot of people in the industry, it's just a matter of time. I do really believe that there's going to be a federal law soon that will ban prediction markets from using sports contracts and saying sports are up to the individual states. If you want to take a prediction market on the price of soybeans in China, best of luck to you, all you, but not on whether or not Duke is going to advance to the Final Four. We're not allowing you to do that. If you guys are watching live, don't move. More to come if you are on the replay on Sports Grid. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you guys watching. Back tomorrow night at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific time. For the rest of you guys, bonus time starts now. Would Polymarket be subject to the same? So, Jimmy, Polymarket actually is a little bit. So the law that they're trying to pass, the bill that Schiff and company, the bipartisan bill, that would impact Polymarket, but it would not in Nevada. Nevada is specifically going after Kalshi because of what Kalshi did in the state around the Super Bowl. If you remember, I talked about this, they took over the largest intersection in the state of Nevada is in Las Vegas, right in front of the Bellagio. And they took that over and they bought every single billboard for first the election, but no one in Nevada cared about that because nobody takes action on the election here. Then they did it for the Super Bowl. And when they did it for the Super Bowl, that's when everybody said, oh, no, you are not going to do that. You're not going to advertise using an app while people are walking into the Bellagio or they're walking into Caesars. Nope. Like, that is not okay. So the swords came out here in Nevada when they did that because they literally hired social media influencers to push that Kalshi was legal to operate in the state of Nevada. And that was a major fuck you to everybody here. And it literally changed how everyone in Nevada, at least from a regulatory standpoint, they no longer were like, oh, this little cute. No, they came full bore. Like, okay, now we're pissed off. And so they've gone the court route. They've gotten the temporary restraining order. They have won the court cases. And now they are blocking the use of Kalshi for the next 14 days while Kalshi explains to everybody why they are not sports gambling. And the state of Nevada is just going, here you go. Like, prove it. Like, sure. The floor is yours. Tariq Mansour, the floor is yours. You tell us how sports betting is okay for what you are doing based upon the performance or the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, that the repeal of PASPA. You tell us in Nevada gaming law, how the law is written here in Nevada. You tell us how you can come in and you have to answer to the CFTC only and not the state of Nevada, not the millions of dollars paid out by MGM and Caesars and everybody else that pays gaming license fees and regulation and taxes, that you are not subjected to any of it, that you can play this game, this mythical game that nobody else can play. So yes, it does impact Polymarket because if Nevada can get all prediction markets banned, they will. But Polymarket is not the one that's been advertising or trying to go after the sports betting handle here in the state. And that is what Kalshi is doing. And Kalshi has made a mark. 2 or 3% down handle wise. And that's going to prediction markets, not all Kalshi, but a lot of it is Kalshi. So that is pissing off the state. And this is not a state you want to play around with. Okay. Like, they don't take this kindly. So now, no matter who is in the White House, no matter what Don Jr. wants to try to do, no matter what, grift he's pulling, it doesn't matter, because while Trump and family is trying to set up their own prediction market because they want to, that's ultimately what they want to do, and then get paid by Kalshi and Polymarket under the table to make sure that these things stay legal, which is what they're trying to do. They don't control the courts. Okay. So they don't control the properties. They don't control what is ultimately going to be the deciding factor in all of this. And very well, this could happen after Don Sr. is out of office, right? This could be after it could be after the midterms. And if the Republicans lose control of the House and the Senate, you can expect PMs to be gone in the first couple of months afterwards. Okay. That's just, if the Democrats take over both the prediction market, both the House and the Senate, they're going to make this illegal. Like, they're going to take sports out because many blue states have legalized sports gambling, and many blue states are losing big money. Michigan, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York. Okay. These are all states that have legalized sports gambling, and they're losing big time to Kalshi and other PMs. So goodbye. That probably will be the end. So it's fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating to watch, but it's happening quickly now because there's blood in the water. And as I said, the more that Americans pay attention to what actually is going on and what has happened, the more that they're finding this is like, well, this is gambling, is it not? Like, it's really hard to look at prediction markets and not think that they're sports betting. However, on the flip side, I will say this. If you open up the DraftKings app here in Nevada right now, guess where it takes you? Not to their sports book, but to their prediction market company. Every time, because DraftKings has the fastest live ticker in terms of real-time latency as to what they see from a score perspective. So oftentimes I will watch games. If I have a total bet, I'll use DraftKings to watch how the game is going and then what the live number is. They're the most accurate, the most, the quickest latency. They've spent the most money to have the quickest app for that. So that's where I use DraftKings from, right? So as I'm watching DraftKings, as I'm watching this, I'm realizing I have to click over to the sports book because they put me directly into their prediction marketplace. I can use DraftKings' prediction market here. I have money in my DraftKings account because when I go to New Hampshire, I can bet in New Hampshire. So I have money in my DraftKings account. They're trying to get me to play prediction markets. I don't have a DraftKings prediction marketplace app downloaded. Okay. DraftKings has promoted this as one app for everything. Okay. So when I open it up, it spits me directly into the prediction marketplace, which I have access to my wallet, which I can bet in Nevada. Now, we can talk about the whole legality of that, how that works. I don't know that just it's happening. How is it allowed to be happening? I don't know. I'm just telling you that's what's happening, at least on my app. That's what had happened all weekend long when I was using it. So I was like, interesting. That's okay. Like, you're now spitting me into where I can bet versus I'm not looking for that. I'm looking just for your numbers. I'm not interested in using and betting, but you're making like, hey, you can bet here with your same wallet that you use for your sportsbook account. You can use it for your PMs and you can do it here because DraftKings predictions, it's the same, right? And no. So it's an interesting look. It's an interesting look to see how this all plays out. But I do think we are running out of time. We're running out of time here with prediction markets being policed by the states, not just the federal government here for that. No matter how much Mike Seelig wants to tell us that's going to happen. Let's make a bet. So I only have one game that I like, but Just the Picks being brought to you by the Betting Pros Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. You guys can go check out what they got for an algorithm-based picks for tonight's props by going to bettingpros.com/NBA props or downloading the Betting Pros app and check out the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet on the Betting Pros app. I like Miami tonight. They've lost 4 games in a row. They're taking on San Antonio. They're at home. Spurs have won 10 of 11. They're red hot. Everyone's going to come in here and bet the Spurs. I'll have to check the live number here. But I like a team with their backs against the wall. They lost by 6 at San Antonio earlier this year. This number is now, it's 4.5 now. I got 5.5 last night. So now it's down to 4.5. But I like 5.5. I like Miami. I like the home dog tonight here. Majority of the money has come in here on the over 243.5. People like that game to be high scoring. It opened up at 239.5. It's now 243.5. Most people, professional money coming in here. We're looking at potentially this thing going to 4. DraftKings may go to 4. You might see 4. Circa might go to 4 at some point. Same thing with Caesars. So closing number probably is going to wind up being 4. But I like Miami with their backs against the wall here to get a W, catching 5.5. Against San Antonio here for 2 nights. That's the only play I like in the NBA tonight. So I got a pretty light card tonight, betting wise, for me. Favorite thing about today. So my favorite thing about today is it's not my favorite thing, but it is a fun and or special opportunity that I'm going to get to see Coach Mack here in Vegas on the 1st of April playing in the Crown, because this morning we all woke up to the news that Coach McDermott officially is retiring after this season. They had hired Alan, I think his name is Alan Huss. I have no relationship with Alan, never met him, never spoken to him. He has been waiting for a year. The thought was maybe 1 or even 2 years for Coach Mack before he would step away. But he has made the determination after a pretty rough year in Omaha, one of the worst years coaching that Coach Mack has had. It's time that Coach McDermott would be stepping away and Alan Huss will step in. He was the coach in waiting. He will now be the head coach for Creighton. Coach McDermott won 365 games in 16 years at Creighton, was also the head coach of Iowa State and Northern Iowa, a tremendous, tremendous career. But a guy who has meant a ton to me over the years. And as I talked about a bit in the open, I showed up in Omaha, Nebraska in 2005 after doing 5 years of morning drive in Huntsville, Alabama, not knowing anything about the Missouri Valley Conference, not knowing really much about the Big 12, where Nebraska was playing at the time, and was a guy who had covered the SEC for 5 years while I was in Alabama, who had covered the ACC for 2 years while I worked in Virginia, and I'd spent most of my time covering the ACC, the A10 in college with UMass and the old Big East when Boston College was part of the Big East. So my college basketball exposure was Villanova, Georgetown, Syracuse, Boston College, right? That's where my basketball knowledge. Then in college, it was all A10. It was UConn. It was UMass. It was Temple. It was, the powerhouses, the John Calipari's and the John Chaney's of the world. Like that's where I covered in college. And then I went to Virginia and I learned about the ACC, and I was there mostly covering college basketball. I was the play-by-play voice of the women's basketball team for Debbie Ryan. That was my first professional job in sports, and did a pregame show and postgame show for football, for UVA football, and had to learn the ACC and had to learn a lot of the traditions and history there. And then from that, I was able to get the morning drive job in Huntsville, which was the affiliate of Alabama, and spend 5 years going to every Bama home and road game for football. Basketball wasn't very good. Mark Gottfried was the head coach. It was okay. Auburn wasn't very good at either one, football or basketball, when I was there. And so I was able to show up, in my late 20s. I show up to work afternoon drive. Kevin Kugler, who was my competition at the other station, turned the job down to leave what was then 1620 The Zone. I think it still might be, but it was 1620 The Zone. Kugler turned the job down. They tried to hire him away to go and work for what was called Big Sports 590, which was the home of Creighton basketball, but it was at the time called Magic 590, which was the 6th biggest radio signal in the country. It was a flamethrower of an AM station. And Magic 590 had been playing classic hits, your Frank Sinatra music, for 50 years. And so showing up as a 27-year-old, and they're like, hey, we're going to hire this kid from Boston who worked in Alabama to come up here and host afternoon drive. Oh, he's doing 4 hours by himself, by the way. It was 2 to 6 was the shift. You're going to work for 4 hours by yourself, and you're going to do Nebraska football and Creighton basketball coverage. So I show up being a kid that loved basketball, didn't love football, college football, didn't know much about it, but I just covered Alabama. So everything, the barometer was SEC. That was my barometer. And Nebraska was awesome, but I was like, this is great, but this is not SEC football. And nobody there liked that. Everyone got pissed off when I would say that. They'd be like, oh, what do you mean? We're in Nebraska. And I would say, great. You're not LSU. You're not Alabama. I'm not even sure you're Auburn. And that would blow their minds. Memorial Stadium, this place is God's earth. What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't, huh? And then I walked into what was called the Quest Center. And the Quest Center was 17,000 people watching a mid-major play basketball under Dana Altman. And they had Dana Altman had built this program up with Kyle Korver being one of, and Ryan Sears, and these players that had built this tradition of them playing in this cage-like 2,000 seat barn to then go and move into what was a modern NBA type facility. And they were selling it out. And I was like, hold on, what's going on here? And I remember sitting in a meeting in a boardroom after I'd been hired. I was hired in April of 2025. Creighton had just gone and played in the NCAA tournament. So I was there right during that, and I started it and I watched it, but I didn't cover it. I didn't go to it. And then after the year was over, we sat in a boardroom, and Steve Wexler, who is now in Milwaukee and was an unbelievable boss, and a guy by the name of Tom Land, who was my direct boss, who has since passed away. And they asked me about the future and what I thought we should do. And I said, we should build my radio show around Creighton basketball. And they were like, what? And I said, we should build my entire show around covering Creighton basketball. I want to do a pre and a post game show next year for Creighton basketball. I want to have Dana Altman on my show every single week. And I want to do a coach's show, a coach's conversation every week. Can we set this up? We set it up. We went and had this sit down conversation. They thought I was kind of crazy. My bosses thought I was kind of crazy. But what happened was essentially giving the Creighton basketball program a platform in which it had never had before. They were always the aftermath. They were always the forgotten. And so I got very close with Dana Altman. I got very close with the basketball program. Guys like D-Rock, Darren DeVries, now the head coach of Indiana, got very close with them. And Brian Fish, who was the lead recruiter for Dana, has gone on to other places. But so these guys were people that I leaned on to learn a ton from. And then Dana left and went to Arkansas for 2 days, did Woo Pig Sooie, and went back to Omaha, which was, I lost my mind on the air, and people still talk about, I flipped out literally on the air when Dana came back. And then Dana left, and it was April. I was back at home for my birthday, and Dana left, and Dana went to Oregon, and this time for good. I got a phone call from a guy who used to work in the athletic department by the name of Mark Burgers. And Mark Burgers called me and said, Dana's leaving. And I was like, whoa, okay. I had known that there were rumors because Jeff Goodman, who then was working at Fox Sports, I was on a train from Boston to Andover, and he had sent me a text. And Jeff asked me, are you hearing anything about Dana? I think Dana's leaving. And I was like, whoa, Dana's leaving. Okay, for good? He's like, yeah. He's like, I think this is for good this time. And so I had kind of an idea that Dana was going to leave. And then this was 16 years ago, mind you. So like we're still text messaging, still kind of in the beginning of the whole thing. And I get a phone call, and it's from Mark Burgers. And Mark says, hey, did you hear about Coach Altman leaving? And I said, yeah, I just heard that he might be leaving. And in that moment, Mark said, so if you're us, who should we hire? Now, I think this was more like small talk. I don't think he really was asking my opinion, but it was small talk. And I said, Greg McDermott. And he goes, why? And I go, because he's perfect. He won at Northern Iowa. He understands the culture. He's a Midwestern guy through and through. He's a family guy through and through. He understands what it means to be in Omaha. He understands what it means to be in the Midwest. He is the only hire. You have to go get him. And Mark said, good, because we just hired him. And I was like, awesome. And the first time I talked to Coach Mack, and he still gives me hell to this point, but he blamed me and the media and other people because we talked so negatively about him for years as the coach of Iowa State, because at Northern Iowa, it worked. He went to Iowa State. It didn't. Having a big, thick playbook, it didn't work. He was recruiting a higher caliber of player. TJ Otelsberger, who's now the head coach of Iowa State. TJ was his lead recruiter. And I would go out, and TJ and I have talked on the air about these stories. And like, him and I went, and we were the same age. We both were single. We were living in Des Moines, and we had a ton of fun together. And I learned a ton about basketball from TJ and recruiting and the livelihood and the inner workings of how information was being transmitted between coach and player and coach high school wise and AAU, and how it was all structured. I learned just a ton and figuring out. So then coach becomes the head coach of Creighton basketball, and TJ was going to go. And then he didn't. He stayed. And then Fred Hoiberg came in. And then Fred came in. And then I left Omaha, and I went to Des Moines. And in 2009, I went and do afternoon drive in Des Moines. And so now I'm still covering Creighton basketball, but this time I started a rival site. So there was a website called the Blue Jay Cafe, which was a free website, message board. And then so I got with the owner, and we did a business deal, and I took that to Rivals, and we did real recruiting. And I started coming to at Las Vegas to cover college basketball recruiting and for Creighton basketball. And I was covering it. Nobody else was. I was reporting and doing interviews and having all these situations. And so I tell all of this because so much of my life of becoming an adult came from Creighton basketball and came from Greg McDermott. 16 years ago, I'm 32 years old. I am, I've been in Omaha for 5 years. I was about to go to Des Moines. I was there for 2 more years. In 2011, I went home and I moved home in 2011. I got married. I had my daughter and then ultimately moved to Houston and then back out here to Vegas. And Coach walking away, there are so many things changing in my life. I told you guys before about the transitional year that 2026 is going to be. This show in 1 week, this show will not be called The Bostonian versus the Book. This show will be called Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault. Same show, same brigade, but new name. BvB, we're closing the book officially on Friday. Huge transition, huge part of my life, huge part of my story is BvB, is Dave, is this story. And that's ending. Coach McDermott is coming here on the 1st of April to play in the Crown Tournament. If they lose in that tournament, that's it. His time in Omaha will be officially over. And really, my time covering Creighton basketball will be officially over because I won't know anybody. I won't know the athletic director. I won't know the head coach. I won't know the coaching staff. I won't know the players. And so for the first time in 22 years, I'll have no real connection to Creighton basketball the way I normally do. So BvB is ending. Creighton basketball is ending. It's it's a lot. I mean, it hit me this morning. It took me a little bit to kind of get my head right to come on and do the show today because I was really pretty emotional about that news. I knew it was coming. It wasn't like it was a shock. They announced it a year ago, but to have it actually be announced that the games here in Vegas will be Coach McDermott's last and that I will have a chance to be there to watch it, cover it, interview him, potentially have him on the show. Whoever's up there doing that, if it's Dave or somebody else, thank you, because I really appreciate the opportunity to see Coach and to see his final games. I was there for the press conference when he was introduced. I was there for his first ever game coaching Creighton basketball, and I'll be there for his last game coaching Creighton basketball. For that, that's my favorite thing about today. Guys, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. We're back tomorrow, 1 p.m. We're going to talk a little responsible gambling tomorrow. I'll explain it tomorrow, but a new company coming in. This is not a paid interview. This is something I think is important for people to pay attention to that actually is going to, I think, help manage your money when it comes to betting. We will do that coming up tomorrow. So really excited about all of this. Super happy. Thomas, thank you for the note. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for writing that. I appreciate that. Memories are special. Well, I enjoy you guys doing that. What's that? Come on, JPC. It's a new app. It's these new guys that I think are doing something pretty darn cool. Underdog has funded it, and I think it could be a big part of sports betting's future about helping young people manage their money. We'll do that tomorrow on the program at 1 p.m. Eastern time for the Tuesday's episode of BvB.